This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, right,
But we
okay.
have a quorum, so.
I'll skip the chairman's comments and I need approval for last month's.
I will make that motion.
Thank you.
1 second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes, abstain? Okay, bills. Over those.
There's quite a few since we didn't have the April board meeting, so you'll see I put some asterisks next to the one that I've actually already paid. They're just normal bills that we pay every month.
Excuse me.
There is payments in there for Master Manzanero and staff for their audit. You'll also see that under the CRC. That's for both agencies. And I think everything else is stuff we pay all the time, well, with the exception of the MRB group and Barton and the Judas for their grant administering and grant application. And you'll see the MRB group is actually done with it. So
Could you just remind what the level of the umbrella policy is for build-up insurance? Remember, Jody? The umbrella policy, 3 million, 1 million, 2.
I'd say 3.
I think it's 3. Okay. That's it. Quick question.
I need approval to pay those bills, right?
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to pay the bills.
Thank you, David.
Don't move. Second.
Thank you, Jim.
All in favor?
Aye.
Questions first? Any more questions? Okay. Review of the financials. You want to go over this, Jody?
Well, you have both the profit and loss statement
Yeah.
and the comparative balance sheet prepared by our independent CPA firm. And I'll compare the year-to-dates from April 20 to 20. In 22, the total income is down just a little bit, $45,000. And expenses are interestingly also down by about 40,000. On the balance sheet, that pretty much stayed the same. Down just a little bit. Well, actually, our assets as far as money markets, security, bank checking is actually up about $80,000. Why? It's primarily, again, because of, again, April to April and last year, December, we closed on a number of pilots.
Great.
Any concerns with the kind of generally negative income that we're producing so far this year?
Andrew is not going to be here. He tested positive.
Who was out?
Andrew.
Any general concerns with the trending negative income so far this year?
Not yet. We traditionally run in the first 6 months, we're at that supposed. We're expecting to, Megan's working on finalizing these studies that we did. So we should get that this year. I have a voucher from the county for $70,000 check. Yeah. And then we're anticipating one of the issues that we're trying to resolve right now is at Springbrook Ford Complex. They received all of their financing to go ahead with the project. However, the project went from about a $5 million project to a $6 million project. With because of that,
3.6 million increase?
because of that, we're anticipating that both sales tax and primarily real property taxes actually increase greater than $100,000. So we're going to have to. We were trying to see if we could schedule it the day before our meeting to expedite it, but I just don't think.
It'd have to be in the paper tomorrow.
Yeah, because the advertising.
Yes.
That obviously is a combination, increase in materials cost, but there's other increases.
But that's in your, but so how does that affect us here?
That's going to be another $80,000
Okay.
increase in fee for this year. So that amount of money coming in.
We're looking at about 25% increase in materials and
Yeah.
right now.
You know how they're making up the deficit? How are they making up that deficit?
I think spring is a combination of two things. One is that the Community Preservation Corporation is actually putting in basis and also doing construction financing, and then Springbrook is putting in more money.
I see, okay. It doesn't kill the project. There are a lot of projects that would kill it. With that rate of it.
And then what's also looming is that I did talk to John Hammer, he is the consultant that was hired. The solar energy project, and he informed me day before yesterday that in fact they are going ahead with their paperwork.
Yeah, I used to work for NICIC. John Hammer, did he work for NICIC before?
He was with the power, he was with the power.
Power Authority, okay. Yeah, we met
So
with him.
he's their representative to the company out of Boston that's doing the project.
He's representing Harwood.
Yes, I'm not, yeah.
He's the person who did the RFPs and the direction of.
Okay.
So that magnitude, that's one.
So we got some
It's not
forward-looking
income,
income stream.
Cheryl, it's not even close, don't worry about it yet. There's a
Okay,
small business
enough.
person who watches this stuff, it's,
I know, just, raising the flag,
No.
just asking if there's
When you see Brad,
We're gonna talk about that in projects committee, the solar pilot.
Yes. Um,
my ballot, please don't look.
Believe me, I am critically concerned about the budget. And working on that, and anything.
It goes hand in hand with the next meeting projects. To make the
yeah,
budget
Cheryl gets the
look better.
projects done, there'll be no financial work.
I'm sure that is true. I'm sorry about that, Jody, but
Well, then that's yours.
anything else, Jody?
I don't know, there's some outstanding loans here.
Oh, we are, well, we will be.
No, that's it.
Okay. Fire energy,
If you would want to, you actually have received it.
Yeah, we received a call from an attorney out of Walton who's representing Bob and May Miller, who owned Enviro Energy, and they are working on a deal to sell that property. And so they asked for a payoff letter as of, I believe it's May 18th, which I provided them. Jody discussed it, and we discussed it with Jeff Lork. We are waiving the interest because, so it's 46,000. I think it went up to like 53 or so if we added interest and a payment. So we waived that and just gave them the principal balance, which is a little over 46,000.
And
I haven't heard back from them, so.
discharge papers.
And the payoff letter and the discharge papers. Oh, right, the discharge of mortgage, $50, we added that. And so hopefully they pay that off on the 18th, and that's one less loan.
Yeah.
did they say that, did they make an offer that they would do that, or did they just say, what is it?
Yeah, they just asked what it was. And so I provided them that number and let them know that we waived those fees for them.
Well, if they had a date, they were asking for it up until, it sounds like they might be planning.
Yeah, planning and
closing of
closing
some
around,
sort, so.
correct.
This is just FYI, this is probably the 5th time we've been through
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different attorney this time.
Fifth time.
No, it's been okay. You know,
I don't think they've ever asked for like the,
Why did we
payoff.
get this far?
They would need that for the potential owner,
Yeah,
or new owner to know what their liability is. It'd be nice to clear that in the books, that's for sure.
We could have 5 times ago. Easily.
won't get my hopes.
We were smart. Anyway, anything else on that? Good,
No.
keep us updated, thank you. Is this the only executive session that we're gonna be doing? Do we have one for,
Well,
only because if we're gonna You understand where I'm going with this? I don't
I'm
know.
gonna close up finance.
You're right.
And then do the executive session at the
Right.
end.
Then reopen.
Well, yes, we won't take a vote on anything today, but we recommend the executive session to discuss the financial history of.
So my question, that's fine.
But technically,
My
there's no one
question
on.
is, are we gonna do it, is there anything else so I can wait and have it at the end of the meeting, and we can just, or do you wanna do it now? And then, because we're not gonna have one in.
I don't think we'll have
Okay,
any
just wanna be clear.
projects, but
That's all.
I
Nobody has
think we
any
could probably just.
reason to have one.
Yeah, I just.
Since no one's on, we don't have to like go into a.
I just need a motion for that executive session.
I'll make that. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Noes? Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you. Good meeting.
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
Sure, if you'd like to, that's fine. Done with financial audit and financial.
What's the next?
All right, so we will move into the projects meeting. I'll forego the chairman's comments.
Can we just say that there was no action?
Yeah, no action was taken.
No, that, we need to say that.
Yeah, thanks.
No action was taken.
Now we'll move into the project committee meeting. I'll forego the chairman's comments, moving into the project committee meeting minutes of April 14th. I was not there and I didn't realize Tom was not there either. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or thoughts on them at all.
I'll make a motion to approve this
Thank you,
meeting.
Dave.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving to the project trackers. Feels like we don't have a ton of action going on here, but just kind of status quo there. So if you just want to do a quick update on the rail yard to start with.
Really, the only thing that occurred in the past month is that New York State Empire State Development asked for us that they're looking to do a bond issue for state level. We committed this for water and sewer extensions to the site. They did include that yesterday in their listing. And again, I did speak to Senator Schumer's office, and they indicated that this is still a site running in Locust Fort Morning. They haven't made a decision as to whether they're going to do the expansion yet, but it will be an only.
Can I ask how that's going through Schumer's office, how they have knowledge of that? Is that based on grants that they're trying to apply for it?
They have been working with Corning on a regular basis
Okay.
for the last probably 8 years.
Okay.
Trying to get them to expand in New York State as opposed to other places.
Okay.
And he's was instrumental in getting them their last security and the federal health department to expand Corning.
Okay.
And then we also submitted the rail yards for the Appalachian Regional Commission has a lot of money out there right now that's moving projects, construction projects. So we submitted this site as well as we also submitted the extension of water and sewer down into the town to accommodate folks' public. Those are the two projects.
When you can answer for that? When would that be? Next fall?
Probably in the fall.
So is there a price tag on that? An estimate or not?
The estimate that actually I got from Michelle Keaton, because she's involved. $2 million.
Which one?
Extension of water and sewer.
It was only $1 million. It's not bad. It was $1 million back when
Yeah,
we did that.
looking before, how far out is that slated to go?
It will go all the way to, I believe, Michelle.
So it looks like the geothermal study has begun.
They had a conference call and they actually started it. The reason I didn't report on it was that Rambo engineers, Serta and I were supposed to have a conference call to kick off. And that was the day we had the power outage. And so I couldn't even get onto it.
The irony.
Geothermal ain't gonna work well.
Actually.
Okay.
So it actually has started. We're going to have another conference call.
Okay. And then in terms of the objectives this year with the cleanup of Lot 5, essentially we're waiting for, I remember that, was it Robinson
Robinson Construction.
Construction? for them to essentially finish utilizing that lot and then, okay.
Yes.
You, just to piggyback on what Charles said, Robinson, I think, was it the town and the county said there was no interest on their part in doing anything with that road? Now that Robinson is actually here with all their equipment and could not necessarily pave it, but grade it, et cetera, or not?
And Mr. Treverson last week regraded the dirt.
Down to feed mill? Oh, really? Okay.
Well, one rainstorm will find all the potholes.
The town said that they would contribute some of the financing and equipment for their portion of the roundhouse road. Well, that's a very small portion.
Mhm.
The city basically says, we're broke, we don't have any money.
So everybody's looking at us pretty much.
Well, I also said to the city, the mayor and the administrator, that if we put a fence on Roundhouse Road, you won't have any objection.
Yeah,
Just block it off. And they were like, well, people use that.
They were saying, you won't do it anyways. No, they said.
Think about something holy.
There you go.
Didn't probably do that.
So it feels like the road continues to be, right, a hot topic of
It is,
conversation.
and the city also then said, well, both the city and the town thought that the county should take it over because the county road.
Somebody else should,
So
so.
never.
They've got that with the airport.
Sorry, I brought that
Well, I
up.
think the county should be involved. They were,
Yes,
they
they
did a
should.
good job. We got him.
They
They
did?
should be part of it, so that's Andrew's job.
So we're continuing to have dialogues on between the entities.
So the only thing I would say with that is if we could put maybe a milestone marker on here in terms of when it would be too late to make decisions, right? So that while we've got Robinson Construction there, at what point would we need to have a direction or decision where we could reach
Well-
out to them while their equipment's still on site?
My curiosity would be how, they happen to be here. Well, there's other constructions that, companies that are here. I mean, the fact that they're here isn't gonna save us 40% or any, I mean, they're just here, but available maybe.
Well, the state.
Well, the staging is expensive, bringing the
Staging
equipment on
is
site.
expensive to bring all their equipment in and they're
Well,
already down.
So I guess if we're gonna utilize that, right, in terms of, is there a milestone point where we have to have our ducks in a row, where we approach them and say, what's the deal, right? And we make a decision, yes or no. We wouldn't say we wouldn't necessarily have to do it, but just so that we're aware, and as a board, we make those decisions at the right time. I know we continue to go back and forth on this road. So, I'm ready to just pay for it to be paid.
Let me say, in all fairness, for us to, Jeff's not here, but he goes to see industrial parks all over the place. So what's competitive? I think we have to be brutally honest with ourselves. And, is it really a showable piece of property? With a scrub brush out there and the potholes in the road, it's not ready for prime time. And so, I've been an advocate of figuring out how to get something done so you could take a client through it and he could picture where he would be.
Right.
And so I think it's, I don't know what budget it is and where it comes from and.
Yeah, my only ongoing concern is I'm not sure, and I can't remember quite honestly, if the site plan that we've done has the road in the same location.
That was the whole thing.
Well, that's,
We waited for so long, but at some
Right.
point you just gotta say, well, that ain't happening.
That's
Right, or we
We'll
keep the
move the
road
road
where
in
the site plan should be, right, like, and,
Cheryl likes this, let's do something even if it's wrong, because it's doing nothing, hasn't worked very well.
One last
Well.
quick question. Was there an estimate on, from the end of the current pavement down, what that cost would be to just pave it?
I think it's about $800,000.
800,000. Okay, that answers that question.
Well, I mean, whatever you did do, you'd want to do it to state specs, so the town would take it over to the county, whoever's
Right.
gonna maintain it. So you
That's
want to make
why
sure when you get done.
Moving on, sorry.
all right,
We could
so,
probably pave it for probably 120,000, a little less, maybe.
Well,
But it wouldn't, the city wouldn't take it over.
No.
and if you didn't get the sub base correctly, those same potholes will find a way to the
find a
town
way out, yeah.
in a couple of years, you're.
Then you
It
tear it
wouldn't be
up.
More of a
what-
mess.
what-
With extended water, sewer and gas lines, and
Yeah.
tear it all up.
To me, if we got the money for water and sewer, that's when we make a decision to how it's going to be laid out.
Right.
And then the road becomes, makes more sense, committed to this configuration.
Yeah, well, Cheryl was raising a good point in the past. That technically, there are two people that want to.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we're holding out for, is,
So why would we put a huge investment?
but however, the other side of that, we've been sitting on go for quite a while. Somewhere we gotta figure out where we're going.
So I think it could be, and if we have a milestone marker in terms of when we revisit this, let's check in. How are things with Corning? How are things with Al Rubin's group? Have we seen any forward progress? And maybe again, as a board, just make a decision on, again, do we hold it? Do we?
But I've hold that one off as long as we can.
Yeah.
But how long, when is Robinson's completion time? October?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, anything more on rail yards? All right, Richfield Spring.
Richfield Springs, really the only thing that occurred was we had except quarterly reports that were due, as well as the semi-annual financial report. And the EDA. We're still trying to finalize the approach changes. Public service. NYSEG again is asking for additional loads on the gas usage and the electric usage. We sent those to Cindy. Cindy indicated that she was going to talk about putting those numbers together. I talked to Larry Frigate yesterday, and he's going to push Cindy to, he was going to call her yesterday, see where she is on this. But I also reached out to Mark Matudis, who says, can you reach out to Keystone? Because I've got estimates that Keystone prepared on the gas line. And to be honest, the specifications for the construction is like this thick. I said, I can't find anything in there in my review of it that says there's any bidding documents in there for the gas line. I said, if there is, fine, just bid it out and don't worry about it. If not, we may have to amend it. Some specs of the gas. But it is in the cost of. So, contact person at. You see if you can check, you still get back to me by 5.
Yeah, there's another timeline for bidding and frost and other good things coming in.
You probably want to go to construction. And I talked to Jill Scott this morning and also in my that he still was supposed to put together the memorandum of sewer districts. He says he just
Yeah, I feel like this one worries me, just especially with the grant and the continued extension. I don't know if you have any concerns about that. We've already asked for kind of pseudo extension on the start with the intention that we would still finish on time. There's no way that's gonna happen.
what EDA has indicated is that once we go out to bid and we actually have a full construction schedule, that's when we would grant the extension based on this.
Okay.
Well, it's probably
Confident in
not-
that?
Forever.
That's not a really complicated construction project.
No,
No, it's something that they can do that very quickly.
Yes.
However, you got to get to the point where the bids go out and you get somebody, you can award a bid and then you can move forward. I mean, they could actually start that in September and be done, in plenty of time to beat any kind of weather issues that they might.
So we are going to try to push to get at least the bid documents out and advertise on this.
Great.
Okay. I was gonna say. that's
Do
all.
they need to form a water district there? Did you say, what's Joe Scott preparing?
Well, we have to have a memorandum of agreement between the town and the village. For the village to supply the water.
Because it's outside the village. Okay, okay, so they don't have to form a district, a new district. Okay, they just need an agreement.
But there has to be an agreement between the two.
Well, that's a lot easier than forming a district. That's kind of a time consuming thing. But it is, in terms of a NICEAG issue, are they pointing the finger at BSC, and or don't we really know what the holdup is there?
There's like 4 or 5 people involved in my city. Everybody has a different story. And some people are saying, well, they won't approve, the Public Service Commission won't approve an extension of a gas main. And I'm like, it's not a gas main, it's an extension of a lab. It's a 2-inch pipe. It's not like a huge main.
Right.
And some other people at NICEAG said, yeah, well, we can call it. And, but they have a policy, NICEAG has a policy that they will not waste time on designing and going to the Public Service Commission until they have a firm commitment from the company that they're going to actually build.
Chicken and
So it's
egg.
sort of a catch.
Yeah.
And so we've come to a compromise that if they give the actual gas loads and electric loads for Mandela's proposed new project, or new addition, that they would accept those, but she doesn't have those yet.
That's pretty common for you. I mean, only because of Russ Southern, but they have done deals where there's a cost. We'll do it, but there's a cost. Someone's going to take that cost. If they build, there's no cost. If they choose not to build, so someone's cost. So that deal can happen. I mean, but someone's got to take
They're
responsibility.
being paid to run the lab.
We're paying.
Yeah, I mean, so NICEAG is not got any expense involved. They're gonna,
Oh, we did. That's the way
Yeah,
we usually
right.
do it
So-
for free if someone's building.
no, I don't think they were paid for it anyway,
They changed that
Well-
law this year.
Oh, of course.
but
I say is responsible for paying for it.
I'm burying one right now.
You're
So,
paying for it.
the lower. The change, I cost that, so. But once again, if NICEAG is not spending any money, they're being paid for the work they're doing. I don't know, somebody needs to get the,
Their argument is that they don't want to run a 2-inch line if in fact they need a 4.
well, that's a legitimate
They're
question.
not running the line. That's a joke. You know what I mean? But look, they have a good point that you want to put in the correct line.
Yeah.
The problem is getting Cindy to provide it. I mean, it's like, Cindy, the line's going to go in, you're going to benefit from it. Can you not get us an estimate here of?
Well, I mean, we figure out, we know the building size, don't we?
I know, I was gonna say, I mean, like,
Doesn't make
it's
any
also
sense.
like a bit chicken and egg again. If you're trying to get a site prepared for a developer or for a business and you don't necessarily know what the business is, right? We might have one, we might not have one, but yeah, just based on the site plan and how the size of the building that you're
Well,
dealing with.
Easy to figure.
But from our standpoint,
It's also based on the equipment that she's using.
right, but from our standpoint, we're also talking about whether it's her or someone else, we need to get that
Right.
business park functional.
Right.
And water and sewer to the site is
Don't care
part of
about
getting
her.
it functional, whether it's her or somebody else. So,
That's my fear. Like, if you plan, let's say, the 2-inch pipe for her, but then all of a sudden you put a different tenant or purchaser in there that needs.
2-inch pipe for a single client is pretty good supply.
Well, why don't we just work on the assumption that is we'll go out to bid next month, irrespective of the gas.
Yeah.
Because that can always be put in as a separate condition.
Yeah, good. At least we're moving
Then we'll get
forward.
the bid back and say, we can't do it.
Yeah.
The thing, obviously, when you have equipment there putting in the water and sewer lines, you want to not put it in the gas lines. It's just-
Yeah, I mean, I think continue to move forward with trying to get the information, but
Anyway,
I agree,
Yeah.
but just to get.
Cindy, give us an estimate so that we can get it to the Spanish company that we call NICEAG. Sorry.
all right. We go to Richfield? Anybody else? All right. The director's report, Jody, I feel like you've got a few updates here and not sure if there's any ones you want to hit on or if anyone has any specific questions.
IOXIS, we did submit a grant application to the Office of Renewal. They actually responded yesterday with a series of 5 questions. Interestingly, they did not challenge usually when you're counting retained jobs, they're very strict on that. They want to see either payment slips that were given to employees, people actually laid off, or they have a section that you can do a financial analysis. So I prepared and submitted a financial analysis of why these jobs were going to be, they accepted it. Now they're questioning whether the project's financially viable, given how much money they, which is a valid question.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the hardest question to answer. But at least they ruled it as an eligible project. So we'll try to get the responses back to you by Monday. The other big issue, really a pain, is Megan and myself, is the parents reporting and a series of questions on our reports. We answered all of those, but satisfied those. Then the authority budget office came back and says, well, your webpage is still lacking all these.
The fact that you have to put all those on,
Projects.
ridiculous.
And to be honest,
Ridiculous.
going back 10 years on some, it's just the documents don't fit. So we put in as much information as we could, and we got today saying thank you for the fine job.
I was gonna say, that if you just put anything, they're good.
The other thing was we postponed the public hearing on Robert Hickey's Town Experience softball fields. At the last minute, the day of the public hearing, he called and says that he talked to his attorney and they would like to postpone the public hearing because somebody filed a grievance against the planning board procedures on 78. And until they resolve that, they don't want people showing up. So in fairness to that, I did go to the public hearing because it happened the day of the meeting.
Right.
Nobody showed up. Or we should have told them.
Maybe they not, yeah.
Here's next stamp is moving ahead. We have like 3 different solar projects now that we're looking at.
Yeah, Hartwick,
Parkwick is one, that's with the next stamp.
and that's supposed to start construction this year, so.
Yeah. Green Street Powers Partners is looking at a project in Cherry Valley, 5 megawatt facility. And Lorenzo Solar is looking at a project in which.
Cherry Valley was hugely unfriendly to wind turbines. I'm wondering how they're going to feel about. But you know, the change in the site authority made it almost impossible for local community to stop a lot of these projects. I don't know if you noticed the article about Schoharie County. I mean, from what I'm looking, you're going to see nothing but solar panels if all those projects go through. It's hideous. You know, I have a solar tracker at my house. I'm not exactly anti-solar, but it's just nuts. What's going on? It's great.
And if you read there was an article on Shenango County IDA.
Yeah.
Audit.
Mhm.
One of the things that they said was, I think they did 5 or 6 solar projects. That's all they're doing.
Well, all the land adjacent Marcy South is prime because you hook up and send it to the city, and that's the purpose, obviously. Our main function in life is keep that state park nice when they read it. So it's clean and they enjoy it and go back home.
There was that. Bloomberg had a great
Your
article.
part, it's doing it.
California electrical system, and they produce tremendous amounts of electricity from solar and wind. The interesting part about it is that they have to shut it down because one, they can't use it, and they can't store it. So it's nuts. It's nuts.
I know everybody thinks it's like free energy.
It's not free energy. It's
But I don't think anybody's really studied what we're doing to the ecosystem by absorbing all that light.
I don't think you have to worry
Cover
about
my
that.
head.
Yeah, I think that's a small blip in the climate change radar.
Well said, well said.
Just think of the wind turbines and their impact on slowing down speed. By definition.
Look at all the birds we're killing.
Well, only the dumb birds, the smart ones are making it. But the question becomes, if you have too many windmills, do you slow down the winds? Would that cause the earth to slow just a little bit? The day becomes 24 hours.
All right,
Oh my
we're
God.
out of control. We're out of
Well,
control.
the same old crap.
Other things, the owners of 270 River Street called me and said they have a flood in their backyard. So trying to be a good neighbor, I went down and looked at it. And the guy had me drive down to the Oleana Rail Yards and said, this is where the floods, it's flooded. And it used to drain all the way in here. I'm like, there's an entire railroad property between our property and you. How do you know the flood was on our property? Because, well, they cleared this out before and everything.
Who's they?
The city.
Okay.
So I said, well, talk to the city. Well, they said that's not their property. It's not their property. So I did reach out to the city administrator. He was going to have their superintendent of public works go and talk to them.
What is 270 River? Is that a residence or a business?
Yes, it's a private.
Business.
It's gotta be, I'm just trying to think.
Everybody got flooded this spring.
Consolidated funding application started this week. We are having a informational session tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Go to YouTube.
When do they close? What's the window?
July.
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 Have you got inquiries?
Not yet. That's what the information session is going to do. We sent copies to both chambers, the county chamber and the Cooperstown chamber. Let people know that. And then again, include a final draft of the board development application because Ms. Kennedy said that she's never seen this, so.
I could say, I'm not reading the 35-page application. Open it up, like.
Disappointed, Cheryl.
And as everybody's pointed out, we can always, if we're fortunate enough to get the grant, we can stay with that. So that's all I think I have.
Anything on the press moment with Schumer? I know, I think you, Dave, you were here. Anything that you want to share with the group on that?
Well, you included the letter.
Yep.
Right, yes, thanks for
Yeah.
the letter. So we sent it.
That's just support for the acceleration center. It's not actually any grant money.
You went right up by 98 and offered a lot of money going up by 98, I can tell you that. I've been in a few meetings.
I will say the building better before with this office, because they actually.
Okay.
So I think it was a positive thing.
I thought it was good.
Give him credit, he visits all 62 counties every year.
Oh, he does.
Glad I wasn't here. I had to go take a shower.
More importantly,
He wasn't asking for you.
we learned. Okay, but Major League Baseball players came from his area.
Yes. The other nice thing about the Innovation Center is that we finally have, while it's tenacious at times, we have custom electronics and access talking to each other. We have Hartwick and Sylvia Leona being part of this, they signed a memorandum. It's getting to work. And also the small business development. The new director for the small business development for the state came down
For the original.
for the rescheduling. The first one, the senator didn't show up. So even the state representative, small business development, is interested in.
The new Stuco president's been really active community-wise. Really.
And he changed the language in the understanding to not just be the business students, but all students to be involved. So he really bought into the idea of trying to make it sport. That's what two cents feel on them.
Yeah, you still know my ongoing concern in terms of the long-going commitment. If someone were to back out, right, versus how do we get them invested in it in a committal way, not out of the goodness of our hearts, right?
And you knew Harvard president coming in, it may or may not be.
And I think I'm less probably worried about the schools, so to speak, and the resources they might provide us, but just, this all hinges on custom electronics and iAccess being able to supply resources and insights and knowledge. And if something, I mean, again, we've been talking about iAccess for years in terms of their, so if that goes south, or if they move, or they go out of business, like, that's just my ongoing concern.
On the flip side, a little success in the first year and a half or something would, it might make people want to stay involved. You know, we have to have results. We can't be diddling around and, you know, and just dealing cards for 3 years and never doing it, never win a hand. You know, we've got to work toward a goal. It has to be something measurable and something to be celebrated that, yes, this is a good idea and it works and there's results.
Yes.
You know, that's what keeps it going.
Any logs on conversations, any phone calls from the sign, anybody, property interests, anything? Get any calls?
We have 2 interested parties in the business park right
Yes, I didn't know if we were going to talk about, I don't see that on the
Yeah.
agenda at all. I know
Is
that.
that
we
ready,
have
is that
the-
ready for conversation yet?
Oh, yeah.
now. There's the one lady, there's one lady, she wants to do an event center in the Oneonta Business Park. So she has to go to the town of Oneonta zoning
Cool.
board.
Can I just interrupt right now?
Yeah.
I believe because this came up before.
Yep.
We need to have a list of what is accepted by us in the park. To send it to the ZBA, and then after they go through that dog and pony show, then we see if we want to do it. To me, is a frustration of people. It's not fair. You know, we should decide, is it fit for the park or not? If they're coming to us, we should be able to give them an answer, shovel.
Yeah, because honestly, I feel like at this
Don't
point,
let
now
them
that we've
tell
already
them.
sent them there, if they get the zoning, we're
Well,
almost
but
committed to.
We're taking our choices away. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's fair. To me, it's not the purpose I understand the park to be for. And so if that's the case, I don't know why we just don't tell them it's not an approved purpose for the park. And then they go I mean, why are we causing them, we know what the end result was going to be if we're not going to approve it. Or open it up and say anybody can do anything there, but we need a set of rules.
Well, to back up a little bit, we just spent $800,000 to get a shovel-ready approval. I don't even know why they're having to go to these.
The ZBA.
And they're gonna, Paul's gonna tell you to come to all this stuff. But the truth is, these people need to come to you and say, no, hold on a second. I understand it might depend on event center, whatever that is, but the direction needs to come from here, and the conversation needs to, hold on, this new governor that we want to see everything, they'll do that every time.
I don't know how part of this business park was approved, because the city, the property that's in the city has different zoning regulations than the properties in the town. If this was in the city, one property, one lot over, they could do that as right. Because it's in the town, they can't do it. Because
But what are our purposes laid out for us? What did the IDA who designed, it's our park. What are the approved uses for real estate in the park? I know that 10 years ago, 8 years ago, somebody wanted to go in there and build a new state-of-the-art auto body shop. And it wasn't an approved purpose for the park. So we before have had opinions on what we can and can't do. I think we ought to have. And everybody should understand it beforehand. It doesn't matter to me who owns what jurisdiction it's in. If the IDA has an approved use or not approved use, that covers the park. So I don't know why we're giving up the decision what to put there to the town and the city when hopefully we have designed an orderly plan in our head of what we want to use it for. And
Yeah,
I
you're
don't want to
100% correct. You are 100% correct. You're 100% correct. No.
Oh,
I don't
No,
think.
but
it's
you're
orderly,
100%
yeah.
correct. You're saying a little.
I guess I'm asking for one.
We
from us.
approved this at pretty much at any level to go in there without, the town approved it, we approved it. And so anything with very little rules can go in that building to this particular size. It meets everything other than housing, which no one's gonna build it. So I don't know why they're going to there with, I just don't understand why they're going without, you're approved, you can build our choices, we don't want that event center in there. Whatever that particular.
what it is in the town, you cannot have any facility that the public has access to.
As a retail establishment.
Makes no sense.
I understand, but like, for example, the Spectrum could not build in the town.
So Spectrum's in the city.
It's in the city, but they don't have that. There are two separate restrictions on that.
Well, let me see.
I think we might have spent $7 million to get it. You know the number, to get shovel-ready site. So you're saying it meant nothing?
Well, I think again, it's back to, yeah, but I think, right, I think we need to define this and perhaps we need to hit the zoning if we have a disagreement with it, right? But it's having a clear understanding of what we want in that park, right? So anything could technically go in there, but what you're saying is, and I would think most of our vision is that it wouldn't be commercial space, that it would be where consumers would be coming in to purchase, buy, or, which is where the auto body shop came in, right?
Well, that's not really retail, but anyway.
Right, but you'd have consumers coming down, bringing their vehicles,
Well, you got
right?
her truck body in their truck, repairing their
Right.
trucks. It's commercial
Yeah.
account, but it's traffic.
Right.
I'm not against it, but we're vague in life's not good when you're vague, right?
And that's why they have to get a variance though.
Correct. But not from us.
No, from the town zoning.
But again, and I'm still the stance, once
Doesn't make any
we,
sense. Telling you, doesn't make any sense. And I go through it with these, I mean, I do this stuff, so my building, so you do too. It doesn't make any sense what's
Well,
going
once
on.
again,
And they will ask for everything.
if we have our homework done, we have the zoning approvals done for the purposes we have listed for property use in the park. So no one has to go to a ZBA to do anything because we decide this is what you can do here and it's already approved. I don't understand.
Right.
The building permit's got to be approved, but the use shouldn't be because that's all set up in an industrial park that's properly set up in my mind.
yes,
Okay?
I 100%.
To the max, and we did it to the, Sandy did it to the, so we were told, to the max potential bill. 500,000 square feet, whatever that number is.
Remember,
Met the requirement of the parking, remember, so.
So what are we saying?
And saying, truthfully, industrial parks have a ton of retail, that's new to, that's.
Yeah, that is
It's big.
big.
It's
Yeah,
big, it's big, even my guys that come to the clean business are saying, why, nobody builds storefronts for cleaners anymore, they're all in the industrial parks. Granger, all these, I mean, it's big, go to Albany, I go down and I'll buy parts, whatever we do, they're all in those industrial parks. It's a viable option, I'm not saying it's best, I don't know what she does, but all of it's open, all of it's open.
And I'll tell you, Mike, I have a really hard time saying no to that after we have recommended they go through to get a
exactly,
variance.
I'm with you there. 100%.
So, because once you got the variance, that's like you did what we told you to do.
No,
She is coming in on tomorrow, I believe. And then to meet with us to discuss zoning board. So if you guys want to discuss right now, if that's not something that you want to,
Yeah,
we'll tell her not
You
to
already
go to.
explained to her, there's two issues. One is that you're not creating any jobs.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm not sure our board will even entertain this. You're
We
basically,
have a list somewhere.
there's no full-time jobs, so.
With
And
what?
I said, the second issue you have is that
What?
you have,
Acceptable
you
use.
need the town's permission because the way the zoning is written.
We can figure it out.
As
Well, yeah, she's asking for a use that's not in our pre-approval for an industrial park.
And
Right?
that's, I just asked Mike, we had a list. I
Yeah.
know we had a list, because we looked at it with Burst Trucking when that was going in, and that was not,
Mhm. Right.
I personally don't think you throw anybody out the door, I think you look at anything, whatever you gotta do to keep them somewhere.
Well, I figure out where else can they
Right.
be?
yeah, an event center worries me for a few
Yeah.
reasons, but
That's okay.
yeah.
I said, if you can make the argument to the board, give me the argument to make to the board that you're a needed facility that doesn't exist here, that there is no other place for a venue. Then that can be maybe considered as a unique business to our area. But
But we don't have that requirement. So that's, I just feel like we're making up requirements
Right.
now that, I guess I don't know where that's coming from, Jody, because we've never really looked at that as an element or a criteria at all when it comes to,
Now, if we could.
and I don't know what the model is. When you say event center, are they having like live performances there? Are they,
Houses.
right, or is it another foothills that? So for me, it's more of a sustainable business model, right? Is it going to be kind of a bad neighbor introduction, like nuisance, sound, all that kind of stuff, right? That's what we looked at Burrs. That was a big concern too, is like
Mhm.
junkyard looking, right? The aesthetics of this. Those are the things that are concerning to me.
Mhm.
But you're right, because as a business part, we talked about this first, should we be concerned about creating jobs? Should we be concerned about those things?
Well, and Bounce House obviously is a retail business, retail traffic, parking, in and out, where you're gonna put them. If they're gonna be successful, they need a lot of people. Okay, parking for a lot of people, it's not a slam dunk.
Right, and quite honestly, even is it set up for high level traffic flows? Is that going to create issues
We have
for
to do
the
a
other
traffic
tenants
study.
and other owners and that? Right, those are the concerns I
Well, we
have.
should have had all those concerns all taken care of when we did our shovel.
Well,
I
ready
would agree.
site. That's what we do.
We did for the purposes in that study. Now someone has,
Not really.
Did-
Not
did
well,
really.
we did a traffic study on
A
everything else.
max, it was a max use of what we had. It was.
Okay, so that was max traffic, max utilization, the infrastructure around it couldn't handle. Now you're coming to something that they could have 300 cars, 500 cars come in.
Right, they're
As long
doing
as
like
the max,
concert,
it
right?
reaches the max of what we had that plan. That's my point. That's where the line's drawn.
Right, so, and I guess I don't know what that plan is, but I guess my point is we were looking at office retail, like office space, right, commercial space, so that well, I don't remember what the study was, if it's going after parking, if it's employees, whatnot, like, if you're telling me that this could be a concert venue, right, where we in a single night have to allow for potentially 1,000 cars to be in it, right, like, that's the only thing I don't know is if we really hit that, because if if it doesn't have any building on it, and it's just a out front stage, right, then all of a sudden, I don't think our plans probably accounted for the potential
Do we
of
have details on what
foot
this is?
traffic, cars, all that kind
Okay,
of
so
stuff.
we don't
You know what I mean?
have enough
Do
information.
we know who is it, local people?
Yes.
So you're gonna get us details. They're gonna come in to visit, they're gonna come for a meeting tomorrow?
Yeah, she hasn't accepted.
These
the
are
meeting,
the
but
same
she asked
people that
me
are
for
trying
it.
to find an event center,
we need
different
details.
places.
I'm sorry.
These are not the same people that have been trying to find other event centers. And now they looked at Hometown Auto and that didn't work. But
I don't know that.
You know, that was, thought that was,
Yeah.
custom, that was looking at Hometown Auto.
no, he bought it before, the year before.
Oh, okay.
Now, just to, has the idea ever go to the town? I mean, do we have approval up to it, you know, for certain purposes there that the potential tenant would not have to go to the town?
That should be if it's not, in my mind, because that's a park ready to go. If you're using it for a purpose we got it approved for, you shouldn't have to have a zoning variance.
Shovel ready is not a purpose.
No,
Shovel ready
no,
is.
usage.
It's a-
Utilization.
Just that, on this piece, we have this acreage, we can build this sign, which correlates to, meets code for this many parking spaces.
Yep.
That's all it does. So when you're within that parameter, you're
Should
good,
be okay.
right? Without the fact without, whether it's certain stuff that towns and cities don't allow, we all know what they are, right?
Yeah.
Without those things, does that make sense? Right? So, and I know that it included retail. I know that it did because of the conversations that were being had. So I just think that anybody, forget this person, the next person comes in, that we are ready.
Yeah,
We are ready and we're, you.
these are the uses you
These
can
are,
have.
Let me
this
look
is
this
what
up.
we can do, this is what will fit, this is how we can do it, and don't go to them yet. We'll guide you through this, and you have all this information, so people, I can't stand being pushed, I've been doing it forever, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I don't
And
have.
that's why people go out of town, so that's my point. I
But you
don't care
remember-
what this, I don't care about this, what this, even this is, I can care less,
The reason we suggested she talk to the town is that she was willing to, we met with her, she wrote a check for $25,000 on the spot. And we said, I would love to take your money, but I'm not sure anybody's gonna let me do this.
Well, but I think you gotta get
But it's
the
your
answer,
property.
right? And we should have started with us first before sending them somewhere else, right? We should be making that decision right now that if she's willing to write that check at this meeting right now, we should be voting if we want to sell that property to her. I feel like we're giving her the runaround
Yeah.
for,
We're selling it.
And I don't even know which property it is. And sometimes the property that's sitting there, like, this, we don't want to sell it. This is potential this way. You have to come up with that directive. She wants to be in that corner. Well, that doesn't work. This works. I mean, there's so much more
Right.
factors involved in this, but to just push them off to the town is going, thank God who's in charge now, try to make everything work. But the fact is, I don't think that it helps them. It's just, there's one guy there that's
So
just
what's
be
the-
all going crazy.
So what's the purpose of the meeting tomorrow that they're coming this for?
To review her project before she goes before the zoning board.
So do we have?
But she needs certain approvals from us
We
before.
haven't
Well-
seen any of the plans.
Okay, so for me, okay, we have existing people who live in our industrial park. I believe we have an existing responsibility for the character of the park to not to be drastically changed. So without knowing what it is she's doing and how she's doing it, I don't know that I can have an opinion, yes or no. I could have a no opinion, that's pretty simple. That's my preset, but, you know, to me, what she's doing here matters. It's just like, you know, how me, I'm not sure, I mean, nobody says anything, but having a butcher shop in your industrial park, how's everybody else feel about it? I mean, they're already there. I just, you know, it's kind of like your own little housing HOA, you know.
Right.
Well,
Listen,
before we send someone to the town, for example,
Right.
we got to see what their
let me
plans are,
give me like 10 minutes.
and then to see whether we.
Well, we're in agreement.
Yeah.
I'm in a meeting, but I.
Now, speaking of butcher shops, was the alternative was the slaughterhouse?
So there's another group that's interested in the property, not the same property,
What?
the big
Why don't I
property,
just
the
come
big
down?
one that we have.
I'll be
But they would need a
The map.
variance because they're too close to a residence
That's better.
for a slaughterhouse. So if they were to go through with purchasing that, they need to go to the town.
Let me suggest we table this, you meet with them tomorrow, you get us details,
Information,
and then before we have an
That's
answer, just bring it back, what is
So
it?
do I
they
tell
want?
her not to go to the zoning board?
Yeah, I would not go to the zoning board
Definitely
until
not.
we decide if we're accepting the project. If we're
We
accepting the
don't have the
project,
information.
then she may have to go to
It's
the
just the
zoning board.
guidance for this person.
Yeah.
Involved. I mean,
Yeah, no, I think, I agree, because I think one of our important functions here ought to be, if someone comes in with an idea, I mean, if we like it, I mean, if we think it's beneficial and it fits, then we ought to be helping them, rather than just sending them off.
That make sense?
So I think personally what I need when we're getting offers like this, it's serious, as we've gotten really quite honestly from this event center
somebody-
potential, is that we get sent out the map of the park, what lot they're looking to build. We have the specs of what it was designed for. And I don't remember, Joe Hughes did spec sheets on every piece of property in the business park. Gosh, probably 5 years ago now.
More than that. but-
More than that, that gave the outline of everything that was there, the assessed value, it was the marketing material for it. So we have a good idea of what the property is, and we have an understanding of what their project is, what they're looking to do, what the purpose and use is going to be. First of all, does it even align with the property itself? And then secondarily, then it's, I think, on us to understand, is it a good fit?
Can I put the car dealership down there?
We can have, so we have an informed discussion.
Discussion and a
That's all we
decision,
need.
and if we accept it, and then needs to be a variance, then you send them to the town,
Right.
or quite honestly, maybe we should be taking that lead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that's that's my
Agreed.
point.
On the zoning. But if we're saying no to it, it doesn't make any sense to send them anywhere else.
And
That
you
make
have,
sense?
and again, you have to take the personal part on as a board, I hope everybody, when I think of it, a personal part of what, how I would use it. It doesn't matter, oh, I don't really think that will be successful. In the back of your mind, you can have that opinion, but it really is, when someone's putting their money down,
Yes.
they have to take that, they're taking that risk. It doesn't matter whether we feel it's gonna be successful or not, it's not, it's really what does it fit our objective as a board in that part.
Which,
That's it.
which I honestly think I think I challenged with the birch truck. I don't feel like we have, because
We don't,
if
but
you
it-
remember, right, like I, in that time, is this property that we're just looking to make money off of as a revenue stream? Or is this actually where we're trying to drive economic development? And that's a question I'm not sure we've answered, right, in the park. Do we want to drive economic development, which means that we would be more stringent on who goes in there and are there jobs being created or things like that? Is the business plan solid? If this is just a revenue driver, that's cash in hand. It's property that's no longer on our books.
And part of that I think is the key issue. Because I think we had this discussion that we just need to get rid of this property. Why don't you hire a realtor and just have a realtor market? And then if you have a realtor that we're gonna pay for, and they bring somebody in, then we're gonna sit down and say, well, we don't want that,
Okay,
you know?
so.
But I still think it goes back to the key objective, right? If we have a key objective of economic development and driving that, then we have a list of criteria we should be providing the real estate agent as to, here's what we're gonna accept it.
Right.
It's pretty simple.
And
Don't bring it to the thing if it doesn't qualify.
Every individual project, you're looking at analyzing every project that needs to be presented. It doesn't fit that criteria, and then you say, well, then adjustments can be made over time, but you have to
Yeah.
look at it. we should, you know, and hopefully you can just do it yourself without having involved us, unless it's a real question, like, this is on the board, or having a little bit of both, what do you want to do here? We're filling up, you know, there's so many factors that go along, we're filling up, you
Right.
know, what's the next step?
We
We
can't
got
be
nothing
selective.
going on.
We can be selective.
Zero. So it opens up a lot of, you know, our chair probably opens up.
Just get a second tip, that's all.
That's,
That's
yeah,
what we need first, then we can have.
I just think as a board to be on the same page, we need the
Yes.
objective. We need to understand what the
Start
objective is.
something.
Yeah.
But I think the supply and demand rules everything. Not a big demand for our park, so we have to limit somewhat our restrictions on who can come, but where the line's gotta be somewhere. Not, well, we'll see, let's decide and adjust every time we talk to
Yes,
somebody.
I hate that.
But we're not dependable to work with by people.
Yeah.
We're not predictable, there's no security in dealing
I'm
with
gonna
us.
leave in 5 minutes, so,
Yeah, same.
Okay.
sorry.
I think for tomorrow or whenever you meet with a lady, get the details, and we meet again in 2 weeks. Or will you
Yes,
meet?
yeah.
And then, you know, tell her.
But I don't even know if we have to meet. I mean, it might be something simple that you can answer. Just send out an email to the board and say, hey, maybe, maybe.
You could
Or
look-
the project committee head, just meet with.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
She's got a ton of.
determining rental.
Yes.
You can delegate everything now. Who's the big guy?
I agree.
I'll do that now.
This is Cheryl's responsibility, really.
It's a project.
I can make the decision if you guys
We
want.
can make it real easy. New York Central, right in that park, fills up that whole lot. 5 minutes where you got your back and call projects, you go off right over.
All right, new and unfinished business. I don't know if there's anything more on the solar pilot program that you,
We had submitted to this group probably 6 months ago, 2 proposals on solar. Because we don't really have a pilot.
Right.
oh, just, yeah, our pilot agreement rules and, yeah.
So we need to at least look at those because we're now getting 3 or 4 solar projects. And
Yeah, I feel like, was there any, I mean, I felt like it was, you created a structure, go with
I
it.
had no issue with the document, that's completely fine.
Yeah, we modeled it after the state.
Yeah.
The state, I'm sure, has a particular one that they use.
I think, again, as long as you have a structure that sounds
We need to
reasonable
officially-
and consistent,
Do we need to vote on that officially?
It'll be at the.
All right, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Great.
And then there is a proposal from Barton Peters to do grant writing services for us. I sent that out to you guys.
Right.
They're looking to, it would be done on a project by project basis, so that it's not that we hire them and just have to pay them $25,000. They're recommending that we reserve about $25,000 if we decide to use it. Because I told them I would bring it up. Meeting.
I support it. I think your time spent, better spent somewhere else.
Yeah,
Make it
the
clear.
community development applications are way too.
For,
so we don't have to put any retainer fee down, it's just if you actually use them. Okay.
just have to make sure they're doing their job.
And go ahead with that discussion next board meeting. And that's it.
I had a question on the, here on April 28th, there was a comprehensive economic development collaboration meeting. I mean, what is that?
There is with Southern Tier 8, Binghamton,
Mhm.
there's a 8-county region that get together once a month and discuss the comprehensive economic development strategies for the region.
Okay, so it's that group, yeah. Did you ever get anything back from the city? Remember there was a discussion at our last meeting about the Ford, the big landing's old building.
Oh, the Fort Sales building.
Ford sales. We went back to them and asked them, we want to see a project.
Right.
Or what their project is.
That's your bond chief.
No, this is actually, I don't think Venatio is involved, this is just a demo that they want money from us.
They claim they have a development.
Okay.
I think,
Wasn't there a meeting at the autumn?
Yeah, well, I don't know what the report was from Venatio, but I have a feeling they're not excited about the Ford lot.
Were you at that meeting?
I was.
Yes.
well, I heard,
Were you at that meeting too?
no, I was out of town, but,
That's what you're talking about though, aren't you?
well, I had heard that the Ford building, you know, there was somebody else was
That's
looking
right.
at.
It's not Benaccio, it's somebody else.
Yeah, I believe it's,
That the city was talking to. That's what I was thinking about this, collaboration meeting, I don't know, I don't think we have much collaboration going on there.
Ball is in their field, they need to get access, that's all.
I believe it's the developer who proceeds was interested.
Oh,
Google.
okay. So let them get back to us. I mean,
Yeah, okay, I just raised the question because that was an item of discussion last time.
Yeah, they indicated that they were gonna meet with the developer and then bring them over here and have a talk.
Well, didn't I read somewhere that somebody's asserting that we at one point committed 50 grand toward the project of that, knocking it down, or am I dreaming?
Yes, 53,000.
53,000, but
That
That
was,
was connected to the food and beverage. hub.
yeah, that was a project we were, the IDA was,
What that had to do with that we went off the food and beverage.
right.
IDA project.
Right.
And that didn't
because
happen.
it didn't happen, the money,
All in the new project, we can't commit that.
And then my final question was, I know it was the day of the Schumer meeting here, you and Jeff went up to the Sadi
So,
up there on the hills above East Worcester.
I think Jim initially went up because he wants to build a soccer field. Soccer fields.
did they build them that big?
Yeah, they do. Well, I've been up there a couple of times. I mean, I'm not sure I could get back there today. It's really out in the
They've
middle of
done a dome.
But that's what I do up, come on, it's like my
Oh,
backyard.
okay.
You're right.
I'll take you next time.
No, not, I think that one's,
Oh,
they manufacture.
But don't they have a division that actually manages these things too? If they-
Yes.
I mean, they'll do it for a customer, but they also manage an indoor facility. Yeah.
The discussion turned into that they need a bigger space. They have problems with electric.
Up where they are up there,
The problem is that they own 300 acres.
you're gonna pay much for it, it don't work.
So they're putting together a wish list over 5 year capital plan, and they're supposed to send that to me.
Okay.
We have some room in industrial park,
I don't think the owner wants it.
because people don't like driving up on them, just.
Yeah, the story was down in Westchester, they had this property up there, hunting lodge, kind of weekend place. So when they wanted to expand production, they did it up there.
A great big building.
It's,
Top of the hill. I was telling Jeff, I'll follow him back.
That's where we talk about windmills, that's where they ought to be.
did you charge them for a car wash?
I think it's 3 times.
all right, anything else for a project?
You come over,
motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Sit down there, baby.